All right, everybody, we are live. Did you realize that 64% of leaders lack the emotional intelligence to understand they are destroying their business's potential because they don't understand how to self-regulate, and they're also destroying their team from ever reaching their true potential? It's called the contagion effect. And what that is your team members will mirror your behavior. And the scary thing about this is that, by the way, I'm going to show you how to turn this around quickly. So stay to the end. The scary thing is leaders don't realize how they're impacting their team. And we all know the toxic leader and the narcissist, that those stand out in our mind, but it's the subtle people that are quiet that communicate with their body language so subtly that they don't realize how it's affecting their team. Remember this, 55% of communication and how you influence is body language. Not what you say, that's only 7%. Tone is 38%. Words are 7%. But your body language is 55% of how you communicate. And I've seen it time and time again when I was an employee in a business, and you just saw when the leader was in a meeting in the conference room and someone asked a question that was legitimate, you just saw the leader shift, and you saw the look on the person's face who just got out of their comfort zone to say something that they were scared of, but they had a point that was salient, but they got shut down. If you don't understand as a leader, and this is just in general, how to regulate your emotions, they will regulate you, and they will regulate all your relationships in business and life. And here's a question for you all. Have you been through one relationship after another, or a divorce, or maybe your kid's not getting along with you, or your kids, and you see a pattern there, but you're wondering, what's going on? Look in the mirror. Take ownership, because it's you. I've been there. I'm going to talk about my story. I suppressed my emotions my whole life because that's what I learned. We're not responsible for how we grow up and what we learn, but we are 100% responsible for changing that when we become adults. And I remember going through a time 21 years ago. My mom died, my dad died. I went through a divorce. I was a top performing sales rep, breaking records in a 14 location company for 10 years, 10 years. And it was like someone just hit a domino and they all started to collapse. I had suppressed those emotions my entire life. And when you suppress an emotion or compartmentalize it, they don't disappear. They come back much, much uglier later in life. Have you ever seen The Walking Dead? That's the picture of your emotions being suppressed and then coming up from the grave much uglier later on. A perfect example of this is if you have ever been the one that has road raged on someone. If someone cuts you off or they're driving too close and you get so upset, that's a red flag and a sign that you have a problem and you're not regulating your emotions. And if you don't regulate your emotions, you're going to miss having a fulfilled life. I was there. I didn't even realize this. I was so numb to understanding emotional intelligence and any of this. A lot of that language wasn't even used when I was growing up, but it's very popular today. And I also will bring something else into the conversation, is spiritual intelligence. And I'm going to show you how I created a framework from David in Psalms. I call it the David framework. So you can regulate your emotions with God and create new neural pathways so you think differently. So if you get triggered by people saying things or cutting you off or driving too close, that's a red flag. And that's a sign that you really need to get healthy. And so let this be your red flag, your warning to do something about it now. And I'm going to give you everything you need to turn how you think, changing your thought process so that you don't react, you start responding. What's the difference? Have you ever been sick? You go to the doctor, he gives you medication, she gives you medication, your body responds. That's good. But what if your body reacts to that medication? You get all swollen up, you turn red. That ain't good. It's the same with how we are in conversations and communicate. If we don't know how to regulate our emotions, they will regulate us and we will react more than we respond. And I'll give you an example about this, and this is scientific, what I'm about to go through. Not only is it scriptural, isn't it cool how in God's word, something 3,000 years ago that was written applies today perfectly, and it's science-backed. You will actually create new neural pathways so you think differently. You start responding instead of reacting. I'll give you an example. So I've been going through the David framework for some time now, and sometimes I go through it multiple times each day, depending upon what I'm facing. And I remember someone really close to me said something to me that was very hurtful. It's like the people that are closest to you that can hurt you the most. Can you relate to that? So this person is very close to me. They said something hurtful, and I was like, ouch. And I didn't say anything. Now, my usual pattern before this moment in time would be, I usually didn't say anything or internally, that's what I was doing. That's when you suppress your emotions, and that's even worse. I'm not saying yelling and screaming is good. That's reacting. So what happened is they said that, I felt it, and my first response internally, in my mind, in my heart, was, they must be having a bad day for them to say that. And I was like, whoa. Because I realized I just responded instead of reacted. And usually in my life, what would happen if someone said something hurtful? I would replay that in my mind. I would shove it down. I would replay it in my mind, wake up at 3 a.m, feel hurt, go into self-protection and self-promotion. By the way, if you look to self-promote or self-protect, that's a good sign that you're reacting, you're not living in your true God-given identity, and you're lacking emotional intelligence. You know, someone says something like, oh, yeah, dude, even if you don't say anything, it's like, you don't know nothing. And it's like, you just go into self-protection, self-promotion mode. Think about that, okay? So I responded in my heart, they must be having a bad day. And I thought, wow, how cool is that? And I started to realize and think differently. And all of a sudden, the relationships that I had that were good became really good. The relationships before that were not so good were much better. And other relationships that I didn't need in my life, I just created a boundary, which is important as well. That's a video for another day. So I'm going to walk you through the David framework. And if you do this, it will change your world, your team's world, your kids, your spouse's world, your partners, your friends. Because if you are a leader, your emotions are contagious, and the people that come in contact with you will start mirroring those emotions. That's the contagion effect. You could really see it in 2020. When leaders were all stressed out and freaked out, their team just like, and the businesses, many of them just went under. So self-regulation is so important. And if you don't regulate your emotions, they will regulate you. And I'll share a story with you. Back in 21 years ago in 2004, I got to a very dark place. My mom died, my dad died, as I mentioned. I went through a divorce, and then I got fired. I was a top producing sales rep. I was a legend in my own mind. I wasn't thinking that, but that's how I was living in my ego, very shallow. And much of it was because I lacked emotional intelligence, because I suppressed all my emotions all my life. And then it was a cascading effect. It's like pushing the domino, like I said, and all of a sudden it's like collapse, collapse, collapse. I went through a very dark time, deep depression. I was in a lot of pain. I was very bitter. And by the way, bitterness is like towards someone is like drinking poison and expecting it to affect the person that you're angry at. Think about that. Drinking poison and affecting it to hurt the person that you're angry at. It ain't going to work. It only hurts you. Do this and you can start feeling whole. You can start thriving instead of merely surviving. And most people like I had no clue that I wasn't healthy emotionally. I did not have emotional intelligence. And so I got to a place where I just wanted to end my life. I did not want attention. I did not write a note. I actually was praying that God would provide an amazing father for my kids. So I put a gun to my head, safety off, loaded with hollow points. I did not want to survive. And I just began to pull my finger on the trigger harder and harder each time, not knowing which pull would be lights out. And at that time, all of a sudden, someone just started banging on my door over and over and over and again. And the only thing I could think about at that time was, can I not even die in peace? They were so obnoxious. They would not go away. And no one came to my house at that point in time in my life, except for my best good friend, Jimmy. Kind of like Forrest Gump and his best good friend, Bubba. Jimmy was a close friend, a dear friend, and he stuck by my side through it all. But it wasn't Jimmy at my door. It was this guy. And so I answered the door, and he's like, very anxious looking, out of breath. And he said, God told me to come to your house right now. Think about that for a second. Every time I share this story, and I don't even like to share it. I don't mind sharing it as much as I used to, just because of the shame there. But God told me, this is not about you, Chaz. This is about me. And I said, okay, Lord, I will tell the story. So God told me to come to your house right now. If it wasn't for that guy listening to God, acting obediently, I would not be here telling you about emotional intelligence, self-regulations in the David framework. Think about that. Maybe God has me right here, right now, speaking to you because you are struggling. And you may not be like I was, ready to end it all. You don't have to. You just don't want to ever get close to that. I was in total misery. So, obviously, that was a wake-up call, and I wish I could say the clouds parted, the sun shone down, and my mind and spirit and soul was like, whoo, night and day difference overnight. It wasn't. It was a journey, and I had many people in my life that helped me along the way. Fran Stouse, I was trying to look her up. She was very helpful. She was a counselor. She helped me just think through things and work through things. And then I went through another time that was really difficult. And I didn't want to get bitter because I knew I would struggle. So I started to research science of behavior, podcasts, books, and whatnot. And I finally said, God, I wasn't saying, how do I self-regulate? I wasn't using that language then. It was about 8 years ago. How can I become healthy on the inside, in my soul, in my spirit, in my heart? And he said, look at David. And as soon as he said that, I didn't hear an audible voice. It was in my spirit, but it was clear as day. As soon as he said that, I'm like, oh my goodness. If you ever read through the David Psalms, Psalm 13 is one that goes through exactly what I'm talking about. David has a framework. He will start out, God, why have you forgotten me? He dumps his emotion. It's D-A-V-I-D. Dump your emotion. Okay. So he's raw and real with God. He didn't suppress his emotions. It's very important to get it out. But you don't stop there. Next is A, which is ask God boldly. And there's several ways you can do this. You can say, God, deliver me from this. God, where are you in this? God, what do you want me to know in this? And when you ask God a question, don't ask why questions, because can an infinite being explain to a finite being why? He could, but we probably wouldn't be able to understand. So what do you want me to know? Where are you in this? What do you want me to do? When you ask God a question, listen. It could be God speaks to all of us differently. I have a guy that I talk to, he hears from God audibly. That's cool. I don't. Usually it's in my spirit. Sometimes people see visions, they have dreams, they have a picture, they have a sense or feeling. Be very cognizant of what's going on around you when you ask God a question. So you go from dump your emotions, asking God. So you're dumping your emotions, you're asking God a question. Now you start to shift from yourself and to God. And now you V, which is verify God's character. God is gracious, merciful, long-suffering, just. He's my shield. He's my refuge. He's a fortified tower. The righteous run to him and are safe. He's my rock. All these different things. Now you're starting to reframe how you think about this. And then it's I. This is where the reframing takes place. Interpret your circumstances and what you're going through, your fear or whatever it is. And usually fear is at the foundation of everything, anger and everything else. That's fear is the foundation of it all. Now you're interpreting things through God's lens, how God sees things, his perspective. He's almighty. He created you. He created me. He created the heavens and the earth. Pretty awesome. He loves you. He loves me. He wants the best for you. He wants the best for me. So now you're reframing it. And there's a great verse in Colossians 3:2. It says, don't shuffle along, eyes to the ground, absorbed with the things right in front of you. That's what we do. If we have a problem, we look at that problem. It's like we replay the problem. And it's like, oh my goodness, this problem. And it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And God becomes so small. So we need to shift the perspective, have a paradigm shift, take our eyes off the problem, because it said don't shuffle along, eyes to the ground, absorbed with the things right in front of you, look up and see things from Christ's perspective. Woo, baby. Now you're looking up and now God gets his proper perspective. And then all of a sudden those problems seem so small. They get their proper perspective. And then D is delight. And that's praising God. So I'll go through this thing sometimes, many times a day, the David framework. And so I'm like, God, Then I'm asking, God, where are you in this? God, okay, you're my rock. You are my fortress. You are my shield. And I'm going through this, okay, verifies character. Then I'm going to interpret it. Okay, God, you are in control. You are the God that heals, the God that provides, and just going through all these different things. And then I think, awesome. How do you see this, God? You're almighty. You're in control. I'm going to trust you. Great verse. It says, blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord. I love this last part. Whose trust is the Lord. It's like, blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord. I mean, you could trust in the Lord like, Lord, I'm going to trust you for this. But the last part, whose trust is the Lord, that's the foundation in which you stand on, and you're trusting him for your entire life, your business, your family, your marriage, your relationship with your kids, everything. Blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord, whose trust is the Lord. So then I'm at praising God. And a lot of times I'm like, I love you, Lord, and I lift my voice. God doesn't care if we make American Idol or not. He just cares about our heart. And even though I can't sing, it matters to God because I'm being real and I'm pouring out my heart. And sometimes I have tears rolling down my cheeks while I'm doing this. And I'll tell you what, things that would bother me for days and weeks and months, and yes, sad to say, years, now I can self-regulate by the David process. So something that would take me months to get over, I can get over in a few hours, quickly. You self-regulate, which gives you emotional intelligence, and guess what? Spiritual intelligence. And I'll end with this. Romans 12:2 says, do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And check this out. Then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will. And when you don't have spiritual intelligence, you don't understand God's will. So on one side, we talked about emotional intelligence and being aware. And when you are aware emotionally of your feelings, and Harvard Business Review says this, the beginning of emotional intelligence is understanding your thoughts and emotions and controlling them or regulating them. If you don't, they will regulate you. And then you'll have the contagion effect is going to happen in a positive way or a negative way. And I told you 64% of leaders worldwide have a negative impact on their team members, which probably means their family members too. Now you have a way so you can self-regulate. And I tell you what, so long I just didn't realize it because I wasn't aware. And this will give you a sensitivity with your emotions so that you can begin to cry. And this is important. I know a lot of times guys like, I'm not going to sit here and cry and do it. It's like, it's natural. David cried before the Lord. Jesus wept. It's natural. And another thing, if you aren't crying on a regular basis, that's usually a sign that you're suppressing your emotions. You should be, when you get in the presence of God, it is a spiritually emotional experience. And many times I weep just in the awe of Almighty God. And being able to feel and truly breathe and live life, life gets really good when you understand how to regulate your emotions so they don't regulate you. All of your business dealings, your relationships will be so much stronger, more vibrant, deeper, and more meaningful. If you would like a copy of the David Framework, send me a DM, comment below. I'd be happy to get it to you.